Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Today we have Iron Man and Captain America Heroes United. This is an animated one shot, but it's part of a series of Heroes United movies. This one runs about 40. No, sorry, it was an hour and 11 minutes. Sorry, I was mixing it up with something else I was thinking of. It's from 2014. It is very much in the spirit of the MCU films. There's no Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. We have what's his name, Roger Craig Smith as Captain America, and Adrian Pasdar as Iron Man, Tony Stark. You might know Adrian Pasdar from a number of things, but superhero related, you know him from Heroes. He was the kind of cocky politician kind of guy who had I even forget his powers already, but he he was one of the heroes, and he fits the Tony Stark role very well. He's really good at projecting, not doing an impression of Robert Downey Jr. as we've seen other people do. He brings his own thing to it, but it's still snarky. It's still I'm smarter than everybody else, and he's got the attitude down. This is very much sort of like a fan service film. It's kind of the stuff that you wouldn't see in the MCU. You get to see. Basically, the foundation of the story starts out with very much the end of Captain America: The First Avenger, with him, Cap, and Red Skull battling in the jet, and it crashes, but it picks up years later. Maybe not even years later, but the Red Skull is very much alive, and he's working with the Taskmaster, which we'll get to know in a few weeks in the Black Widow movie. Whether he'll have the same powers or not, I don't know. I doubt. Taskmaster has the ability to mimic anybody's powers, or not powers, but abilities, just by watching them. So he can't shoot laser beams out of his hands if he sees somebody do that, but if somebody is really good at taekwondo or throwing a shield, he picks up on that immediately. Hawkeye's precision with shooting bow and arrow, he's got that copied. He's faces off with Black Widow, I'm sure, of course, in the new movie, but he copies their abilities. So this could have been written off as somewhat of just a kiddie fair kind of thing with like, yay, heroes battling, action figures fighting, and honestly it does look like sort of like a video game cutscene animation, but after a while I kind of got used to it, even though the mouth movements are very sort of, I don't know if you want to say staccato. It feels like South Park in the way they animate the mouths. There's no fluid movement. It's all very. We have to see it to understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway, it's cell shaded. It's got that kind of video game animation feel, and which is fine for what this is, because it lends itself to some really great movement for the characters in action sequences when they're fighting, flying, shooting things. Cap and Iron Man start out training by fighting each other and trying to outdo each other. Cap is more. He always has a plan. He works out strategy. Iron Man is sort of goes by the seat of his pants and throws whatever he can at the person until it works, and his opponent until it works. So they have two different approaches to fighting, and you get to see them in action in a Civil War type of way without any animosity. So yeah, what they end up doing, though, of course, coming in contact with Taskmaster and Red Skull, and the Red Skull obviously has a very huge plan in place to take advantage of both Stark's technology and Steve Rogers' super soldier serum. So mixed that with some other things, you kind of get. I don't want to spoil anything, because you kind of get some things that were used in Marvel Comics not long after. So they kind of started here, sort of. Yeah, I don't want to ruin it, because there's a number of things in this for comic book readers to really appreciate this, and this is very much comic book fan service. So, uh, but set in a very MCU feeling world. It's for the ultra fans who are of any age, and I think you'd get a kick out of it. It surprised me. I just figured it'd just be a weird cash in to sell action figures, or even a video game that looked very much like this. Not the case. The story is, yeah, it's not a thinker, but it's got some neat little twists. It's got some special appearances. It's got voices from Clancy Brown playing Taskmaster, D. Bradley Baker. Whenever I hear his voice come on the thing, one, I think of Clone Wars because he's the voice of all the clones, and two, I think of Klaus from American Dad because he's the fish. So but I can still hear him in the voices of different characters. Like I think he plays some of the Stooges in there, or no, it's Dr. Cooler. But you can hear his voice throughout this thing, so it's kind of funny. So yeah, I kind of surprised. I'm picky when it comes to my Marvel stuff because I'm a humongous Marvel fan for many decades, and yeah, this is not the MCU. Don't expect it to be. Don't expect it to follow along with the rules and the timeline and the character aspects. If you want it to be that, no, you're not going to get that. But it's modeled after that. If you expect it to be 100% like the comics, no, don't expect that. This is another just reality, and just have fun with it. There's some fun bits in it. Sometimes I get the impression that this was almost designed by the people who do like the end credit sequences for some of the movies, because the animation sometimes it just goes kind of monochromatic. I don't know if that's a proper word for me to use. There's a sequence in which Steve is being tortured, and he has sort of like a crazy dream sequence, and it's really cool. It's actually really cool. It makes use of all the Avengers characters, and it's like a nightmare of sorts, and it's really well done. So it's I wanted to discount the animation as just being here's a cheap, quick way to do this. No, maybe it is. I don't know, but it worked for me. Even I mean, like right here, just first glance, I'm like, oh, this seems like I don't know if just first impressions it didn't really thrill me, but it grew on me as I watched it. So good for them. Good for them. Good for them. So yeah, I recommend it if you're a Marvel fan. Just set your expectations aside and have fun. Yeah, that's what you should do anyway with any Marvel thing. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
4.
4? Well, I can tell you what this is going to be. It's one of the numbered ones. And we got 102 Dalmatians. So we got the sequel because apparently one more Dalmatian makes a difference. Or just a really cool way of making a sequel title. I don't know. So they show up alphabetically on the shelves when you were selling direct to DVD or direct to VHS. Yeah. I just saw it, by the way, just below that is the 12 Dates of Christmas, so we still have Christmas stuff. Yay. But we're watching 102 Dalmatians on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow.